Hey friends, it's Miss Amanda here, and I want to talk to you today about measuring. And we're going to take a look at some of the tools you can use if you want to measure. The first thing I want to show you is a ruler. Here I have a ruler, probably similar to ones that you've seen. This one's clear, but I have another one that is kind of bluish. You may have even seen them. They might be made out of wood or some other material. But these are rulers. Now, have you ever seen one that's so big? This looks just like a ruler, but it's a lot larger. That's because this is called a yardstick. And if you took 3 rulers and put them end to end, it would actually be the same size as a yardstick. Rulers aren't the only way we can measure objects. Take a look at these items. Do you have any idea what kind of tools these are? These are actually called measuring tapes. And you've probably seen these around. Contractors, builders use measuring tapes a lot. So inside, there is a tape that pulls out, and you can see the numbers right on the measuring tape, similar to our ruler, but this one is easier to carry. So this is a measuring tape, but guess what? They don't all look like this. Some measuring tapes are small and made for a keychain, but it still pulls out and shows us our numbers. Here's one that's a circle. So measuring tapes come in all different shapes and sizes, but they all do the same job, and they measure. Rulers and tape measures are great tools if we want to know how long or how tall something is. But what if we want to know how much something weighs? Well, there are special tools for weighing. You've probably seen something similar to this sitting around your house, or maybe when you go to the doctor's. But at the doctor's office, they're usually a lot bigger than this. This is a scale, and this type of scale was made to weigh people. So it can hold very heavy items, like a person, and tell us exactly how much we weigh. Small scales can weigh little things, like in the kitchen. They don't weigh big things like people or animals. Well, maybe a tiny animal. I found a ladybug, and I tried to weigh her on our small scale, but she was just too light, even for this scale. So guys, we talked about measuring length and height, and we talked about weighing things. But there's a place in your house where measuring things is really important. Do you think you know which room in your house uses a lot of measuring tools? You're right, the kitchen. Just look at all the tools that we use in the kitchen. There's measuring cups, there's measuring spoons. We measure a lot when we follow a recipe. These 2 measuring cups, these are for measuring liquid. So if you need to measure milk or water or anything liquid, you would use this type of measuring cup to see how much liquid you need. These measuring cups are for measuring dry ingredients like sugar or flour or anything like that. So you're making a cake and you need to measure something dry. You would use this type of measuring cup. And you can see there's a big one, and they get smaller and smaller. So there's all different sizes you can use. And finally, there's measuring spoons. If you just need to measure a little bit, you can use a measuring spoon. So the next time you're grown-ups in the kitchen cooking, see if you can help. Ask them what they're measuring, because now you know how. So we've learned about measuring with rulers and tape measures and scales. and we learned about measuring in the kitchen. But there's two more tools I want to show you before we try some measuring on our own. The first one is a clock. We can measure time using a clock. Can you think of another way we can measure time? We use clocks, but sometimes we use something that goes with us, and we wear it on our wrist. It's a watch. Just like a clock, a watch measures time. You might even see a clock or time being measured on your phones or tablets because they have clocks on them too. So now that we've learned about all these tools we can use to measure, I wanted to try to measure some things on our own. Now, the tools are really useful when we measure, but guess what? You don't always need a tool to measure something. If you want to try measuring at home with me, all you need to do is find several objects that are the same size. So when I looked around my house, I noticed that I had a lot of blocks, and there were a bunch that were the same size. In fact, there were small blocks like these. Those are square blocks. And there were larger, longer rectangle blocks. So I sorted them into two piles, rectangles and squares. And I decided I'm going to use squares to measure. You can use blocks like that if you have them, or you and your grown-up can try and find something else that you could measure with. They just have to be the same size. The first thing I'm going to try to measure is this book. It's a really big book, so I was curious to see how many blocks would it take to build as tall as this. So here's the book I'm measuring. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by building my block tower. There's one, and I'll keep adding. There's two. Thirteen blocks. So my book is 13 blocks tall. So I found a smaller book to measure, and I'm wondering, do you think it will take more or less blocks to measure the height of my small book? Let's find out. So I found that this book is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 blocks high. How wide are my paints from Arts and Crafts? It looks like they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 blocks long. Last thing I want to measure is this really cool 7-Up bottle that the kids and I found while we were out collecting trash. It's really old, and we just thought it was pretty cool. But I'm curious to see how tall it is. Well, let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 blocks tall. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. But take a look around your house and see if you can find any tools that are used for measuring. You might even want to try and measure some things on your own. So go find some blocks or anything else around your house that you can use to measure. Good luck and have fun.